Rock 92.7, thank you for joining us again on another episode of Mahela's Music Moment. If you are new here, welcome. I'm your host, Mahela, and today my guest is none other than the Vic from the Michigan-based psychobilly punk band Koffin Kats. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and actually, before we start, I just wanted to ask a quick question. So I've noticed that a lot of bands and artists are coming from Michigan, like Eminem, Lizzo, Greta Van Fleet, Kid Rock, and so many others. So my question is there something like in the water up there that makes y'all sing like angels, or what? What's going on up there?
It's probably the weather in the sense that we want to get the hell out of here when it gets cold. So.
Yes, I totally get that. You know, being from Texas, I've lived here my whole life, and I absolutely hate the weather.
Well, our touring schedule these days. So we've been at this for about 20 years now, and our touring schedule these days has us pretty much out of Michigan for all the cold months.
That's a good way to plan it. I've never thought of doing that before, but that's smart. But anyways, we are so excited to have you on the show because y'all are really unlike any band we've ever had on the show before. For starters, I don't think we've ever had a psychobilly punk band show on the show.
Yeah, I mean these days, in this day and age, with how music is, it's not that common to have a band with an upright bass. Kind of pop up. Although there's a bunch of bands like us, but we're more of a underground type of band.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. And then also I wanted to ask, what does psychobilly specifically mean to Coffin Cats, and how does that influence the band when you're, writing songs, rehearsing things like that?
Well, to folks that have no idea like what our style is, I always try to say, hey, if you're familiar with Stray Cats like Brian Setzer, and if you're familiar with Motorhead, and you put those two together, you get something close to what we sound like,
Right.
sonically. The cool thing is that the whole rockabilly, psychobilly, all that style of music, it's kind of got a little kick in the butt lately from that Wednesday show on Netflix where
Yes.
they have the Cramps featured on that. And so the Cramps are, they started back in the 70s, but they're kind of the pioneers of the sound that we have, where it's, echoed guitars, and drums, and the vocals got kind of a 50s vibe to them. And I mean, that's kind of what we do, but we also love punk rock and hard rock. So we take the punk rock and the hard rock elements, and we mix in a little bit of that 50s vibe to it, I guess you can say, and that's kind of the sound we have.
Yeah, I am so glad you actually brought up the Cramps because I was literally going to mention that about the show and stuff. And I think that 2023 will be the year of psychobilly
I
because
hope
of the
so.
show. I
But
hope so too.
I think it's absolutely wonderful anytime a band, similar to the genre that we play in, gets a little bit of a spotlight. Last year, or well, it'll be 2 years ago now, the Necromantics, which are a fantastic band and a very well-known band within the psychobilly, rockabilly scene, they had a little hit with that Adam Sandler show, the Hubie Halloween.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, one of their songs, Trick or Treat, was actually in the movie, and I remember seeing people go, what's this song? This stuff's really cool. And I'm like, if only more people knew.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up again. I've seen that movie recently, so I'm gonna have to watch it again. Also, another unique thing, I think it's unique about your band, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the fact that you play the upright bass, which, isn't your typical rock instrument, or really your typical instrument in general. But when you have planned tours, or maybe when you've talked to other bands about like collaborating and stuff like that, has there ever been any kind of hesitation from them when they found out that you played the upright bass?
No, that's generally when I get asked to guest spot on somebody else's track is if I'll sing on it or if I'll play some upright bass on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unique instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always loved the percussive element, and well, obviously it provides a bass element to the three-piece band that we are. But it's a unique sounding instrument, and it adds just a little bit of extra kick in the butt with the slap sound. And a cool little story is I was actually inspired to play upright bass by a well-known Texas band called Reverend Horton Heat,
Oh.
who the Rev himself is actually from Corpus Christi, Texas, originally. I understand, but
Oh, super cool.
I was at a young age very influenced by that band, and that was my inspiration for wanting to pick up the upright bass because Jimbo, the bass player in that band, played upright bass, and that was the instrument that I wanted to play. I played guitar when I was first getting going as a very young teenager, and then realized everyone played guitar, and I wanted to play something that not everybody played.
Yeah, no, that's super smart because you're right. Everybody plays guitar. But I think that's really awesome that, people haven't been hesitant to work with you guys, because obviously you guys are super talented and you work very hard on your craft.
Yeah, the only thing with that bass is that it's traveling with it, and we actually now these days keep gear. We have gear in Europe. We have an upright bass over there. I have gear on the West Coast so that we can do fly-ins that way because traveling with it over the years, it basically is another person in the band.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, I imagine.
so we've gotten smart and have placed them all over North America and in Europe so that we can just kind of fly in and have one of our bases waiting for us.
Oh, that's really cool. So break it down for me. How does that exactly work? Do you guys have like a storage unit or something, or is it just like at your
Yeah,
friend's house?
yeah. In Europe we have a buddy who's been very very kind to let us use a corner of his garage to hold our gear over there, and as far as like the west side of the U.S. because we're based out of Detroit, we have a storage unit in Las Vegas. And we keep a whole set of gear and merchandise out in Las Vegas because plane tickets are cheap for us to fly into Vegas, and then we just get a
Right.
rental van and we kind of use Las Vegas as our hub for when we're playing the west side of the states.
Oh, okay. I think it's really interesting, like all of the logistics and everything. So thank you for
Yeah.
telling me that.
Yeah,
Uh,
we do everything. We've been a do-it-yourself band for a very long time, so we've kind of gotten everything figured out over the last 2 decades, and just try to.
mm-hmm.
we like the adage of work smart, not hard.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Me too. Yeah. So I did also want to talk about the early days of the band. I heard that you would go on America Online. And for our listeners who are too young to know what that is, it's essentially AOL. And for the listeners too young to know what AOL is, you're probably too young to be listening to the station. But anyways, so you guys would map out a tour route and then just pretty much cold email people. Just be like,
Yes.
hey, what do you need a band and stuff? So
Pretty much. Our first couple of U.S. tours were all booked by me sitting at a dial-up computer, and basically on AOL you could type in, say somebody was into say you were looking in Chicago and you were trying to
Mhm.
find, I don't know, Metallica fans. You could type in Metallica for looking up somebody's profile. In my case, I would be typing in things like Reverend Horton Heat or Necromantics to see
Right.
if anybody's profiles popped up, bands in the genre that we play in. And then I would kind of just cold email those people and be like, hey, do you play in a band or know anybody that plays in a band? We'd like to book a show coming through.
Mhm.
And it just happened to work out like that.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys are past AOL phase. So
I mean, yes, and no to some degree. We still find ourselves like, when you're trying to get from point A to point C, and you need some place to be point B, but it's in the
Mhm.
middle of nowhere. We'll still kind of reach out and find bands and stuff online and be like, hey, is there anything happening in Wichita, Kansas this in 2 months? We need a place to play. So
Mhm.
we'll still kind of reach out to different bands and stuff. There's not too many well, there's pretty much no areas of the U.S. that we're unfamiliar with these days, but
Right.
it was like that.
Yeah. Yeah. After like 20 years, I'm sure you know a few people around.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've watched the scenes in different cities come and go over the years, and
Hmm.
everything goes in waves. And Corpus Christi has always been a great stop for us. And then there was a little period of time where it seemed like nothing was happening, and now recently, post pandemic, we've had some really kick ass shows, and we're looking forward to getting back there at House of Rock.
Yes, yes. And we will talk about the show a little later for those listening who want to see the Coffin Cats. Before we do that, I did want to ask because you guys are celebrating 20 years in June.
Yes, yep.
Wow, that is such an accomplishment. What do you guys plan on doing to celebrate this huge accomplishment?
Well, we're in the process of booking a Detroit show. We only do Detroit shows a couple times a year. And we're in the process of booking one for June, early June, because that's pretty much when we first started practicing, was June of 2003. And so, yeah, that's our plan right now. Is there's a pretty decent venue in Detroit called St. Andrews Hall, and as of the moment, that's who we're talking to about booking the show. But things can change before then. So
Right.
um,
Yep.
we shall see. But we're also in the process of writing new material, and if everything goes as planned, if I can keep myself on schedule, we'll be releasing 6 songs in the springtime, and hopefully 6 more tracks in the fall time.
Oh, that is going to be so exciting because I know you guys haven't really had the chance to come out with new music recently. I think the last time you guys came out with a single in 2021.
Yeah, it was. We when everything got shut down during the pandemic, we thought, oh well, this will be our chance to be so prolific because we're not doing anything right now and can't do
Right.
anything. And it was a real hard time to write, just because everything was it was all up in the air. I mean, it was
Hmm.
weird. We didn't even know if the clubs that we usually played at to tour when we were touring would still be open, and it was just a very weird time. And let's just say the mood wasn't there to write material. But towards the end of the pandemic is when we actually got together in the studio, and we actually built our own studio, and recorded a 6-song EP called "You Can't Take It With You," and that was the most recent release that we did. And now we are back in the studio working away at new material, and we're pretty excited. And that's the plan for this year, is celebrate 20 years and try to get more material out.
Yes. Well, that sounds awesome. We cannot wait to hear the new music. I did want to switch gears here a little bit. I actually wanted to talk about your tattoos. Well, actually, the band's tattoos, because y'all have a lot of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yep. It pays to have friends that are tattoo artists over the years.
Yeah. So, how many tattoos do you think the band has as a collective?
Oh man. Oh, geez. I'd have to say well over 50 tattoos if you put all 3 of us together.
Oh my gosh, that is so many.
Yeah, but it it's funny because we've actually had this conversation amongst ourselves of where does one tattoo stop and one begins, though? Because some were done in one session, some were done in multiple sessions, and it's
Right, yeah.
yeah. I mean, put it this way: by the time we turn 80, we're all just going to have like purple and green blobs all over us.
Yeah. That's awesome. I don't personally have any tattoos because I'm so indecisive. Like, not because I don't want one, it's just I'm so indecisive. I can't make up my mind.
Oh
Um,
well, if it makes you feel any better, like a good quarter of the tattoos that I have, I've been like, why did I get that? But you're stuck with it, and you just kind of live with it.
yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, what is your least favorite tattoo and why?
Probably the ones that I've gotten at house parties after shows, being way too drunk to make good decisions.
Oh my gosh. I bet those are great stories that you're going to be telling, your grandchildren one day.
Yeah, well, Yes, every tattoo tells a story to some degree.
Yeah,
Whether the tattoo itself has any meaning, there is a story behind most of them. So,
right. Yeah. So then, what is your favorite tattoo and why?
uh, oof. I have to say my favorite tattoo right now. I think it changes, but
Right.
the one I just got one on the back of my head, and I have to call it my favorite because it's the one that hurt the most. And it really felt like I worked for that one the
Oh yeah, I can
most.
imagine. That's kind of like a tender spot back there. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I have to say it was the one where it was like, okay, when I was younger and I got tattoos that were like below my sleeves so that you could visibly see them.
Mhm.
I was like, all right, well, I'm making a decision here because when I first started getting tattoos still weren't like all the rage.
Mhm.
It was still like, well, are you a criminal or a convict or
Yeah.
and kids weren't starting out getting sleeves right away and neck tattoos right away. It was still kind of like you got to keep that hidden because you don't know what job you're going to have here in the future.
Right. So
And
you were like, you know what? Forget it.
yeah,
I'm gonna
I
be a
mean,
rock star. So
yeah. I'm like I'm pushing 40 really hard now, and I'm like, all right, well, I've been doing this long enough. I guess I'm just going to be doing this the rest of my life, so I can get that head tattoo.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, unfortunately, on that note, I think that is all the time we have today. But before we go, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I mean, like I said, we got that House of Rock show coming up, and it'd be great to see a bunch of people out there at the House of Rock. It's a wonderful venue, and they always treat fans great. And we have on our website, which is www.koffinkatsrock.com, we have all of our confirmed tour dates up there because we have this tour in January, and then we have another tour starting in February that takes us on into Florida. So we're all over the place this year, and you can find us on all of our confirmed shows on our website, and we're on all the social media stuff. And if you type in Koffin Kats with K's, you'll find us.
Yes, and just to repeat that, Coffin Cats will be performing at House of Rock on Thursday, January 12th. You can get your tickets now by going to texashouseofrock.com. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Mahala's Music Moment, only here on Rock 92.7.